clap, clap, point. Clap, clap, point. Clap, clap, point. Yeah, I paid attention. Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my theatre-themed YouTube channel. If you are meeting me for the first time, hello! My name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre, which is why I have a theatre-themed YouTube channel where I review the shows that I've been invited to go and see as a content creator and a professional theatre critic. And earlier this week, I was invited to go and see We Will Rock You at the London Coliseum. This is a jukebox musical that combines the perpetually crowd-pleasing and beloved music of the band Queen with a script by Ben Elton. It's a riotous rock and roll sci-fi explosion, and it's taking over one of the most glorious venues in the West End for the summer. And today I'm going to be letting you know what I thought of this production, because this is a show that is divisive. And I absolutely see both sides of it. My dad loves this show, and yet I've spoken to many theatre fans who really hate it and don't understand it. So today we're going to be doing a few things. I'm going to review this new production of the show. I'm going to be letting you know how it is different to the original production you may have seen before at the Dominion Theatre. I'm going to do my best to describe the plot of this show for anyone who either hasn't seen it or has seen it but still didn't understand it. And I'm going to try and prove the point that We Will Rock You may not be a good musical. In fact, I don't think it is a good musical, but it doesn't really matter. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. Why when singing Queen do I sound like Karen Carpenter? How does that work? Anyway, stay tuned for my full review of We Will Rock You. But before I start on today's review, there is one more thing I must share with you, because I don't know if you've noticed anything different about me right now. No, I haven't had a haircut, but when my mother sees this video, she will tell me to. It's not the hair, it's the chair. I have a brand new office chair that's been sent to me by flexispot, the same people who very kindly sent me a height adjustable desk that you are currently sitting on. I don't know if you knew that you were sitting on a height adjustable desk, but you are, look. Oh, look, you can go all the way down and you can enjoy my We Will Rock You at the Coliseum t-shirt. There you go. Look at that. Back up, back up, back up. Now, they very kindly gifted me this desk a little while ago, and now I have the chair to go with it. And as someone who spends usually 5 nights of the week sitting in theatre seating, I know the value of a good chair, and this one is fantastic. The support on my back, the breathable mesh fabric, it's so good. It's fully adjustable, I have head support, I am comfortable, but I can still be productive. I can spin around like I'm a Bond villain. I've been expecting you. But if anyone is looking for any products or any furniture like this, maybe for a home office space, then you're in luck, because flexispot are running a sale for the entire month of June. You can get up to 32% off products just like these, and you can access it via the link in the description of this video. Big thanks to flexispot for providing my new YouTube chair. New throne. Who dis? Now, you have waited long enough. Let me tell you what I thought of We Will Rock You at the London Coliseum. Right after this sneak peek of the curtain call, which did feature a pretty special surprise guest. Let me tell you all about We Will Rock You. If you know nothing about this show, it was one of the earlier jukebox musicals, and it harkens back to a time when jukebox musicals were made with a plot that didn't relate to the artists whose songs were used in the show. This was before we had a lot of biopic jukebox musicals like Jersey Boys and Beautiful and Ain't Too Proud and MJ and so many more. No, this was the time of Mamma Mia and We Will Rock You, where we used the music of that artist with a show that maybe sort of capitulated on their vibes, but didn't reference them specifically. Although, Queen are referenced in We Will Rock You. They are referenced as having lived a long time ago because We Will Rock You is set in a dystopian future. Earth has become the I planet and all live music has ceased to exist because everything is digital and online and homogenized. When this show was first written in the early 2000s, this was very much the creators taking aim at contemporary pop music and social media culture that was then in the very early stages. Like, it's so much more now, and they've updated the show accordingly with more references to this, with things like Instagram followers, etc. There were even some more like recent topical updates for this version. They started talking about artificial intelligence and chatbots. That's not something I've heard in the show before, and obviously there's a lot of discourse around that right now. But essentially you have the global soft empire who have taken over the world and banned independent thought and artistic expression, ruled by the malevolent Killer Queen and her henchman Khashoggi. But standing up to resist them, we have two spirited adolescents who just want to break free. Haha. A young man who has renamed himself Galileo Figaro because he hears music lyrics in his brain and spends the entire show quoting them with tremendous sincerity. And a young lady who he calls Scaramouche. Escaping from the clutches of the global soft empire, they meet with the Resistance. The Resistance is this bohemian underground movement who are trying to bring back live music for reasons they don't really understand, but it speaks to their souls. And though they don't know all that much about this age that they are paying tribute to, they have all named themselves after great musicians. We have Meatloaf and Britney Spears and Tina Turner and Lady Gaga and David Bowie, so many. Led by this older sort of hippie roadie character named Pop, they come to the realization that Galileo Figaro is the chosen one who will help the prophecy come true. The prophecy about crossing the 7 seas of Rye, where a shining star will lead the way, and wielding an axe that we come to realize is actually an instrument. It's a rock guitar, in order to bring back live music or save the world, some such. And that's honestly all there is to it. We have like the thinnest justifications for so many of these songs popping up. Like, sometimes the songs will kind of make sense with the plot, and sometimes they'll just be based on a line someone has said. Like, there's very little reason for the Killer Queen to be singing Fat Bottom Girls in the second act. There is very little reason for all of the Bohemians to sing Crazy Little Thing Called Love, but they somehow make it work. And I'm always a little bit quizzical when people say they don't understand this plot. It's bizarre, it's sci-fi, and it's strange, but I don't think it's complex, and I don't think it's particularly inaccessible either. It's not like A Bat Out of Hell that has all of these layers of plot that they never really explain that clearly, so you never really get. We Will Rock You has a paper-thin plot, but it puts it all on the table. The thing about this show is it was put together by people who grew up loving Star Wars and music festival drugs, and when you combine those two things, you get We Will Rock You. It's the Empire versus the Resistance, but what they're fighting for is live music and rock and roll and self-expression, all featuring the soundtrack of Queen. And honestly, I can get on board with all of that. I don't mind a farcical, ridiculous plot if they stick to their guns and if they take it seriously. But my problem with this show is it doesn't take its own plot seriously. Because we get to the end of the show, and spoiler alert, the prophecy comes true. Galileo Figaro goes to the place of champions, he finds the axe, and they make music happen, and they start to perform We Will Rock You, the title song of the show. And I think in the original production there was more of a point made about this defeating the Killer Queen, but it really gets glossed over, and they just don't finish the plot. Like, they are racing to this place, the global soft people are trying to get them, and we just never tie all of this up. It just doesn't end. They get there, they start doing Queen songs, and the audience loves it so much that they just do 3 Queen songs in a row, and that's the end of the show. It's like, we don't need to pretend we care about the plot anymore. It was all just a strange road leading us up to being able to perform Queen songs in a theatrical setting. And once we've started doing that, why would we care about tying up all of these loose ends? So I've started to touch on this a little bit, but I do think that there are a few reasons why this show fundamentally just doesn't work, and I'm going to tell you some more of them now. So I have a few issues with this show at its core. I don't mind the silliness, I don't mind the overdramatic characters, and I know that it's not really for my generation. Like I said, Star Wars, music festival drugs. But the problem here is that you have these two opposing mindsets. You have global soft and their homogenized pop, and you have the bohemian rebels trying to bring back live rock music, and the problem is that what they all sing sounds the same. In the choreography and in the execution of songs like Radio Gaga and One Vision that are performed by these like robotic, mindless, I can't remember what they're called, but like the ones who have bought into the whole global soft lifestyle and aren't thinking for themselves. They're choreographed and they perform it in such a way that it's clearly like homogenized and uniform and not very individualistic or creative. But because the audience loves those songs just as much as they love the other songs, they're still sung really well and they're still dynamic and we still cheer for them afterwards. So it's not like, ugh, that's mindless, pointless pop. It still sounds like Queen. So something like a Radio Gaga still sounds anarchic and powerful and punchy. Same with One Vision. Like in any other version of this show, that's a song that the Bohemians should be singing because it sounds like this sense of rebellion and urgency. So we just don't get any kind of a contrast between the live rock and roll music they're trying to fight to bring back and the stuff that Global Soft is churning out, because everyone sings Queen songs. In the perfect version of this plot, if this is the story they're trying to tell, then we really ought to have music by multiple different artists, where the Bohemians are singing the Queen stuff and the generic pop corporation ought to be performing generic pop. But you see why it doesn't really work. But I can get past all of that if they really commit to the story that they are telling, and this is where I have another issue. Ben Elton loves nothing more than to write a silly joke, or in fact it appears that what he loves more is to be on stage in his own shows that he's written and directed, saying the silly jokes himself. And there are a lot of laughs in this script. Galileo does this thing throughout where he quotes lyrics that have fallen into his head, and so they get punchlines from things like Ernie, the fastest milkman in the West, and Agadoo. The problem is, every single page of this script is played for laughs. There is nary a moment of sentimentality. And when you have these characters who fall in love, when you have this whole tribe of bohemian rebels who all really care deeply and passionately about this, we need just one moment where they talk about what this music means to them, but we never really get it. There is one moment of sincerity that I'm going to tell you about later in this video, but for the most part, it is just all jokes throughout, and we don't get that sense of heart or importance. We don't get anyone talking about how this music makes them feel. Compare that with something like Greatest Days, the Take That musical, where the whole plot is built around the way that this music makes its fans feel and uplifts them and brings people together. We don't get any of that at all in We Will Rock You. We just don't spend time talking about the power of this music. Not with any kind of legitimate emotional sincerity anyway. I should say as well, before I forget, the show has gaping structural issues where we will stay with the same characters for 3 songs at a time. They will just sing 3 different Queen songs in a row for no discernible reason. Also, any musical theatre writer could look at this song list and the structure of this show and tell you that something like Who Wants to Live Forever, which is the biggest, most romantic ballad in the show, should not be the second number in the second act. That should absolutely happen at a different moment. I do have a couple of other criticisms, but they are more to do with this specific production. So having seen the original, having seen the recent tour, and having now seen this arrival at the Coliseum, let me tell you about this production and how it compares. So for anyone who saw the original production at the Dominion Theatre, we certainly don't have the same scale of set, we don't have the same scale of costumes. The Killer Queen's costume is the one where you really feel the difference, not least of all because Brenda Edwards played the Killer Queen at one point in that original production and is playing the role again now, but she has this blue wig and these blue outfits that look as though she's on a RuPaul's Drag Race runway and the theme was blue. The costumes I can just about tolerate, but the wig needs to be burned, honestly. It needs way more volume. It just undercuts her as a kind of sinister, villainous presence, and she needs much more power on stage, far more power. It's odd that that costume is so different when Galileo and Scaramouche and Pop and Meat and Britney Spears all look so similar to the original production. And speaking of similarities to the original production, if you liked the graphics that they had in the background, don't worry, many of them are exactly the same. Yes, over 2 decades later, we are still using the same Sims 2-esque footage of a lot of other people in the background going on for rows and rows and rows singing Radio Gaga doing this. And I think it's a good idea to use that footage. Sure, use screens. It's a sci-fi era musical. Most of what this set is just big screens, and there's not many set pieces. But can we please update the footage of the Sims 2 characters? I can't. I mean, at least it's not Sims 1. It's Sims 2 level of graphics, but there have been many Simses since then, and I need them to redo these. I like the contrast when we go to the Heartbreak Hotel, which is the Bohemians' hideout. I like that that's actually a real set when everything else is digital, because it's a contrast with the digital cyber world. That makes sense to me. But if you like big set pieces and you don't like screens, you might be disappointed by this one. There is this one, like, piece of set that rolls forwards. The Killer Queen's throne occasionally does this, but for the most part it's these two scaffolding towers with different levels, and the band are split atop them. The band get revealed at a couple of points throughout the show, but not as much as they did on tour, which I'm glad about, because this started to annoy me on tour. Again, it was just undercutting the storytelling going on when we kept ripping back this curtain to show the band every 5 minutes. In this version, you have a guitarist coming out to play a solo during Who Wants to Live Forever. He's silhouetted against the moon. I think that's actually very beautiful and a great way of incorporating the musicians who are really important to this story and this music. Song-wise, for this production, there are a few changes from the original, and they mostly have to do with the Killer Queen. So she used to sing, "Play the game, everybody plays a game." Cut. Gone, which makes me very sad, because I love that song. But she does gain "The Show Must Go On" at the end of the first act, which I think is a glorious song. We know from the Moulin Rouge film that this is a song that you can do a lot with in a dramatic context. This is a storytelling song, and I think they could do a little bit more with it, but I like that they've put it in the show, and it's a great Act 1 finale. In the second act, she used to start singing "Don't Stop Me Now," and Khashoggi would interrupt her, and it would be this whole joke moment where she wouldn't actually sing the whole song, and she'd say, "What part of 'Don't Stop Me Now' do you not understand?" In this version, she sings the whole song. And on the choruses, where we have the line 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit, Scaramouche has already foreshadowed this by referencing that lyric, so every time that lyric comes around, and it happens 3 times, Galileo and Scaramouche run up onto a set piece in the background, and she sings it angrily at him, and then they run back down immediately. This happens 3 times in a row, and the blocking is exactly the same. They run up the stairs, 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mrs. Fahrenheit, down the stairs, back up, do it again, down the stairs, back up, do it again, down the stairs. Now this just upset me to such a degree on the tour that they just repeated it 3 times on this central podium. At least at the Coliseum, we go left, then right, then left again, because they have 2 sides where they can do this, but it is exactly the same blocking. We get a little bit of harmony on the middle one with the Killer Queen, so there's a teensy bit of variety, but it's just a silly bit of staging where they just literally repeat it thrice. There is one spoiler thing I want to say about the set. Now this is new for this production, but it also harkens back to the original, because towards the end of the show there has always been this Freddie Mercury reveal, and it used to be, I believe, just via a screen, and it used to be a graphic. And what happens at the Coliseum, because the stage is so huge, they wheel out the gold Freddie Mercury statue that used to be standing on the marquee of the Dominion Theatre. It's a very cool moment, and I just wish it was given a little bit more status. Like, I don't know if the way they need to do the lighting, or like some dry ice, or like a big orchestral like swell into it, but it was so cool to see. It just needs a little bit more of a reveal so it could be a proper moment. I wanted to well up and cry, and I didn't. I just thought, oh my gosh, that's so cool that they have the statue, but I wanted to be more moved by it. Like I said, there are a handful of new topical references. You have Ben Elton on stage, so he's gonna put things in. He referenced the British rail strikes going on at the moment, and I dare say there are various other changes made to the script, possibly even to the songs. It's been a long time since I saw that original production, but those are the ones that stood out to me. If anyone is a more loyal fan of the show than myself, feel free to comment down below what else is different about this production. So let me tell you about the performances. I will preface this by saying everyone sounded fantastic and everyone brought that rock energy to the show. And I'm not under any illusion that this is like Sondheim or Shakespeare. This is, like I said, sci-fi rock and roll pantomime. But some people understand that better than others. And you're also in the Coliseum, so everything needs to be big. I was in row C of the stalls. I was dangerously close to the stage. This is an enormous 4-level opera house of a venue, so you gotta throw everything right to the ceiling. And if there's a performance I thought was too small, it is definitely too small for the people at the back of the balcony. So I want to talk about all of the principal performers, but I'll try and keep this brief. Ian McIntosh and Elena Skye played Galileo and Scaramouche. I liked their chemistry with each other. I still don't know why Galileo has to have an American accent. That I don't really get. But I enjoyed his spirited and slightly obnoxious characterization of Galileo the Dreamer. Elena Skye as Scaramouche, this I think is a really fun character. She's sarcastic and irreverent, and she's a lovely tonic when compared with everyone else who is just very intense about their political ideologies. That being said, she needed to project her characterization more, both in terms of actual volume and in terms of just like scale of expressions and delivery. She needs to find a way of still being sardonic and kind of monotone while giving us more energy. It's a difficult thing to get right, but that was the issue. Also, vocally, whenever she would sing in her lower register, we just couldn't hear her well enough. Now, this is a venue that struggles with sound issues at the best of times, and there were a few sound and lighting cues that just went plainly wrong. But I want to be able to hear more of what she's singing, because when we could hear her at the top of her register, it sounded fantastic. Also, Ian McIntosh, incredible vocals from the two of them, both soaring, phenomenal vocals. Now, Ben Elton, writer of the script, director of this production, is now joining the cast. He is playing Pop, the older hippie character. He only really sings at one point, and he sounds kind of like how your dad might sound after a few pints singing karaoke. And by that I mean your dad, not mine, because my dad is a professional singer who does rock music and sounds incredible. But I don't begrudge his vocal performance because I feel like it connects with a lot of the guys that are in the audience, honestly. By him being such a big fan of Queen, it feels like him being on stage is the bridge between the audience and this band. And because he wrote it, he absolutely gets the tone of all of his material. I think he speaks far too much, and this character just has way too many lines, and there's so much heavy-handed exposition that goes on, and we make the same jokes over and over and over about them having things like televisions and videotapes but not knowing how to pronounce the words because they're from a different era. It's repetitive, it's cheesy, but he gets it. He is sci-fi rock and roll Buttons from a Cinderella pantomime. And honestly, one of the best performers in the show because he knows what he's doing tonally. Adrian Hansel and Christina Lardo as Britney Spears and Meatloaf. Yes, I did get those names the right way around. You didn't hear me wrong. Adrian's playing Britney, committing to his characterization 300%, giving you energy, giving you ridiculousness, giving you like macho guy doing his own karate noises. But for the most part, their job is entirely to deliver vocals, which knowing these performers, of course they are going to do. But they gave even beyond what I was expecting. Specifically, Christina Lardo gave the vocal performance of the entire show when she sang No One But You, brackets, Only the Good Die Young. Now, this is also my favourite moment of the show in any production I ever see, because it's this one heartbreaking moment of sincerity in the middle of a huge amount of overblown nonsense. Nothing in the rest of the show is to be taken seriously, but this moment comes when they pay tribute to artists who died tragically young. They say a bunch of names, the last name they say is Freddie, and then she sings this beautiful song. It was originally performed by Kerry Ellis so well that it catapulted her to superstardom in the musical theatre world, and I have watched that recording so many times. I did not think anyone would ever live up to that version of the song, but Christina Lardo does so well. She gives you options on top of options. Her entire job here is to turn up and sing this song, and she blows it out of the water so much. It's phenomenal. It's heartfelt, it's soaring, it's powerful, absolutely fantastic vocal performance. Someone I wanted more vocals from was Brenda Edwards as the Killer Queen. This is a big vocal role, and I've seen this show before with fantastic singers in this role. And when you can sing the hell out of those Killer Queen songs, you can damn near steal the show. But Brenda doesn't. She gets a little bit lost in this show because she neither brings this energy of total authority and ownership. She doesn't feel like someone who is taking control of everything and everyone on that stage. She feels like someone who's just being brought in like a sort of an awkward pantomime villain, honestly. They've given her the chance to do a comedy Caribbean accent. She did this when I saw her in pantomime at Christmas as well. I don't know that it really makes a lot of sense in this version of the show, but fine, if that's going to get a laugh, whatever. It just feels a little bit like a comedic crutch when she's not giving me that 100% Killer Queen characterization that I want, nor do I think it's strong enough vocally, and they have adjusted some of the keys in songs like The Show Must Go On to make it a little more comfortable for her vocally. And I think Brenda's a really endearing performer. I loved her in White Christmas. I'm just wish I got a little more Killer Queen from her. And finally, someone I wasn't sure about, but I think may have been the standout performance of the show for me, was Lee Mead as Khashoggi. Now, looking back, considering that when he was on the TV casting series Any Dream Will Do to find the nation's Joseph, and his defining performance on that TV show was him singing Paint It Black, I don't know why it's taken society so long to cast the man in a proper rock musical, because he, A, is having the most fun I think I've seen anyone ever have on the stage, B, understands his role as a pantomime villain henchman perfectly, like his eyes bulging out of his head, him taking his dialogue so seriously even though it's ridiculous, him managing to spend the entirety of Don't Stop Me Now finding new ways to look dumbfounded, and then delicious rock vocals because he has such a tremendous voice. Like, he is great in this show, honestly. One final shout out, Danny Natras caught my eye in the ensemble every single time, killing the choreography, giving you energy, giving you attitude. Loved it. Great work. So who would I recommend this show to? Here's the thing. If you're a staunch musical theatre fan and you want to go see this because you go to see everything and you feel like you need to tick it off, I don't know if this is necessarily going to be for you. If you're someone who doesn't go to the theatre that often, but you like going to concerts and you like this music and you don't need like a huge storyline to hang something on, you're probably going to have a great time at this. If you have any kind of an attachment to the music of Queen, if that was your era, if you liked the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, then this is a little bit sillier than that, but I think you'll have a great time at this as well. It's somewhere between legitimate rock concert and pantomime, but it doesn't feel childish. It's just overblown, high volume rock and roll indulgence. And for its target audience, I feel like it ticks every single box. This show has to deliver scale and power and volume and music. The fans who are coming to laugh are going to laugh. The fans who are coming to get their Queen fix absolutely get their Queen fix. You get to hear all of this music. It's performed so well. There's choreography. There's a meandering storyline that lets them poke fun at the newer generation while remembering how cool theirs was. So like I said back in the introduction, I do not think that this is necessarily a good show, but for its fans, it's probably doing a perfect job. Could this production still be a little bit fuller, a little bit more expensive looking? For sure. But for entertainment value, it absolutely ticks the box. And that has been my review of We Will Rock You at the London Coliseum. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope that you've enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my theatre-themed YouTube channel for plenty more reviews coming very soon. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day. For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!